What is up, Rose with Josh here, and welcome to Chapter 3, Episode 1 of our Road to Tier 10 series, our series where we're diving into every line in World of Warships, going from the lowest tier all the way to the Tier 10 to see if we notice anything different, if anything surprises us, and if any ships kind of surprise us along the way. As you see on this episode and this chapter, we're going over Russian destroyers, this one particularly the low tiers. We just finished up the French battleship line, and we ended up unlocking the Republic in 187 games, so it was 187 all the way from, I believe, the Tier 3 battleship all the way to the Tier 10. So not too bad, our fastest line so far. But then the viewers picked the Russian destroyer line, and I kind of let me just preface the destroyer line going to the Grozovoy. So we'll be making that juncture over, as you can see, towards the Grozovoy line, not the Khabarovsk line. So when we do the Khabarovsk line, we'll get some repetition on this, and we'll basically just jump over and just do the high tiers for that. But we are going towards the Grozovoy, just to state that out. But this line was kind of a little worrisome for me. It was kind of a let's make Jash hate his life and play kind of a line that is kind of known for having some stinkers to a lot of people. But so far, this line has been a blast to play, and the series has been a blast to do along the way. So I hope you guys are enjoying this. But low tier Russian destroyers, let's kind of dive right into it and talk about this from tier to tier. So the tier 2, I just call it the Stroganoff. You guys can say the Russian names however you want, but the tier 2, and it didn't really take us that long to do. We'll dive over to the stats really fast and check out the summary of the tier 2. But tier 2s, you're going to get done with them one game, basically. It takes so little to actually get through there, and if you scroll down there, we won our first game. It took us one game. We did 18,000 damage, and it doesn't take too long to actually get through. The reason being that it doesn't take too long to get through is that, one, the XP is very, very low, and two, the player base is at tier 2 is brand new, so you tend to play against players a little easier to kill. And even though we didn't even kill anybody in that game, we still got enough to get through, and so tier 1 was pretty uneventful. But for the ship itself, is actually pretty good. It's actually a seal clubber, and it has that decent guns for its tier, as well as very short but a lot of torpedoes. So it was kind of fun to kind of charge in and kind of win most gunfights if you really wanted to. And then torpedoing stuff was decent if you got battleships, but really it was actually very dangerous because there's so many cruisers at that tier. Like the Novik and, all kinds of insert high rate of fire, lots of gun ships that are on the tier 2 for the cruisers. But we were able to get a bunch of damage when we needed to, torp battleships when we needed to, and got through the tier 2 extremely fast in one game. This has been pretty basic. I mean, even comparing it to like the Chester took us 3 games, but that had a lot of upgrades, and that was a cruiser, so it's gonna take a little bit more. But like the Samson took us 2 games because we lost our first one. That's gonna be basically the only thing that's gonna stop you from. Oh, those are different ones actually. So let me bounce over to the Pan Asian really quick. So the tier 2 Pan Asian DD took us only 2 games to get through, and let me see, the Jurian, which is the cruiser, took us 1 game. So 1 to 2 games seems to be pretty basic, and that's about all it took to get us through. So 1 game to get through the tier 2, and then we're on to the Dirtsky, or the Derpsky as everyone calls it. So again, good guns on this ship, and good guns and lots of torpedoes, 102 millimeters, so we aren't quite needing it, but you aren't getting that Russian hit really fat, like the Russian big AP hit when it comes to this, and even the HE Alpha, but you get those laughably awesome torpedo reload at 22 seconds per torpedo reload time. So sending 5 sets of 2 out, 10 torpedoes, basically as soon as you send the last of your 5th set out, the first one's basically almost ready to go. So downside is, as you get along with this line, 4-kilometer torps. So the Russian line is very known for its short range torps, but they can be very devastating. And pretty much if you're going to get within range of the Dirtsky for torpedoes, you are going to be taking those torpedoes at some point, especially if you can get into a spot where you can do tons of damage, especially with the fast reload. Can maybe mess a couple, the person will think you won't have torpedoes anymore, and surprise, 22 seconds later you have more torps to go through. But again, Russian guns at low tiers, you kind of just outfire almost everybody. There's very few. I think maybe the Vampire can put up a fight against you, maybe the USN ship, the USN destroyer, but Russian lines are basic bullies when it comes to low tier ships. And I'm diving over back into the if we can get to there really fast, diving over to the tier 3 Dirtsky. took us 2 games to get through. So tier 3, this was actually kind of quicker if we compare it to the last line we just went through. If we go to the Tyrian, that took us 3 games to get through. We got through in in 1 or 2 games, sorry. So we're getting a bit quicker when it comes to this. Let's actually sort this by tier. That'll make my life a little bit easier when we're going through everything. But yeah, the dirt ski took us 2 games to get through. We actually averaged 46,000 with a pretty high XP for a tier 3, comparing that to the Tyrian. Much lower. That's why it took us the extra game. But again, very low XP to get through. The dirt ski, or the derp ski as everyone calls it, is just a good old fun ship to play, and we were on and out into the next game, into the next ship like it was no other. So dirt ski is still very fun at tier 3, definitely a keeper. All these are basically keepers so far. And then we get on to one of my favorites on the line is the Izzy, the tier 4 destroyer. Now this thing is a beast, one of my favorite, if not my favorite tier 4 destroyer in the game. I don't really play low tiers that much, but as soon as I got this, I knew we were good to go. Now, we were playing this ship without Seaman Expert. That's always the downside about this, is every time we play this, a new line, we start with a 0-point captain at the lowest tier ship. So we are rocking a 6.5 kilometer detection. And when you get into those tier 4, tier 5s, that's where you start seeing some pretty nasty seal clubbing destroyers like the Kamikaze R's, Kamikazes. So we were getting out detected by over a kilometer in a lot of situations. But still, this thing was an absolute beast, and if you got put into the right situation, you had a massive advantage with your guns. This is when the guns really step it up. You go from a normal of 3 main battery turrets to 5, so 5 shells going out with a 5-second reload. So not only is your alpha damage really good for this ship, but you're also really good for your torpedoes. 5 kilometers, the longest so far. And you get to do a ton of damage, not only with those, still a fast reload time with just under 40 seconds, and using those guns and really kind of making some plays when it comes to this. We had one game where I think we had 6 or 7 kills with this ship, and it just wasn't enough to win the game. And but still, absolutely insane. This is such a keeper at tier 4. I think if like tier 4 they did like another maybe ranked sprint at tier 4, I might even use this ship just because it's so good. I absolutely love this ship. I think it's a fantastic ship, and we got through it again extremely fast. This line really surprised me with just how fast we get through it. So it took us 2 to get through tier 3, it took us 4 to get through tier 4. Again, pretty damn high average damage with just over 45k. XP not quite as good as the tier 3, but still pretty dang good. Let's compare that to Shenyang. The tier 4 on the Pan Asian line took us 12 games to get through. So, and if we compare it to the Corbeil, actually no, I think that was kind of messed up for how many games it took us to get through. But the Corbeil, the tier 4 battleship, took us 4. This only took us well, they both actually took us 4, so pretty standard right there. Why did this take us so many times to get through? Did I play it too many times, or I don't know, maybe this had a ton of upgrades. I'm not quite sure. That's actually kind of surprising. But still, Izzy fantastic at this tier. Again, blasted through it, tier 4 onto the tier 5. I think we finished these. I mean, that's only what 2 games, or 1 game, 2, and then 4. I mean, already we're at 5, the tier 5 with like 6 games played or something like that. So barely enough time for our captain to get any XP, and still we're on there. So Izzy, definitely a keeper. Love this at tier 4. I think one of the strongest DDs, honestly, at tier 4. And so, last but not least, for the low tier, I would consider tier 5 the last low tier ship. Where we break into the mid tiers, which will be the next video, is the Podvoisky. So this is a very, very interesting ship, and this is one that really surprised me. Looking at this line, I thought there were going to be 3 turns when it comes to this line. The Podvoisky, the Nevi at tier 6, and then the Minsk at tier 7. I thought that was going to be a bit of a grind and hell to pay. This ship was the biggest surprise I think I have played in any ship ever. I had never actually played this ship before, believe it or not, because I had played all the Russian DDs. I mean, I think I maybe had played this once or twice during an early testing phase where we got to show it kind of work in progress. But on my main account, I didn't have a recorded game in the Podvoisky. So all I saw was we just got done with ranked sprint, and we just got done with seeing how kind of pretty poor this ship actually was. Extremely high detection at 7.5, so obviously we're getting out detected by 2 kilometers by some of these seal clubbing DDs like the Kamikaze R and the Fujin. So lots of things out detecting you and just having a really bad time. But what you don't realize is this is where you get those big ass Russian 130s, and you're basically a tier 5 Kaba. So what can you do? This thing was just an absolute beast at tier 5. One of the most fun, probably some of the most fun I've had surprisingly, as a ship that I kind of went into it expecting this ship to be pretty bad. This ship was so much fun. So far the line had been kind of stealthy for its tier. You had decent guns. This is where you kind of get that advanced line look at this. This is not a starter line by any means, and this is not a starter ship by any means. This is something that's going to take a higher game knowledge, in my opinion. For one, you have to use coverage, using environment to block off lines of sight and breaking that outspot that a lot of DDs have with the ability to outspot you. The Podvoski, you need to know when to fire, when not to fire, when to go dark, when not to go dark, and when to just start trading life. And that's one thing with this ship as well, is you could get into situations where you would just straight up win fights with other cruisers because your DPM was so high, you're so fast. I mean, even looking at the maneuverability right here, 42 knots as a DD at tier 4 or tier 5, absolutely nuts. High rudder shift, the maneuverability is crazy. So although it has that 7.5 kilometer detection, we didn't have a 10-point captain yet. Obviously you won't at most tier 5s if you're playing it. Massive speed, massive guns, good rate of fire. I loved playing this ship. It was such a bully ship, and it was kind of funny to just see a lot of cruisers just kind of give up on you when you were playing the ship because you're so fast and we're so hard to hit. So really enjoyed this ship a lot. I was not expecting to like this ship so much, but let's look at the stats really quick, and I think they're pretty damn good when you compare it to this. So looking at the Bretagne, of course, the Bretagne known for being a pretty rough tier 5 battleship. Not only is there bad matchmaking too, we got really lucky when it came to this. So 15 battles to get through the Bretagne, the tier 5 French battleship. The Podvoski, 9 games. Now let's just compare that. The XP, 55,000 in the Bretagne, 1,400 XP. We had almost 53,000, almost 2,000 XP in this ship. One thing we really noticed too, I think we got bottom tiered once. I don't know if that's just the DD queues or what, but it was insane how fast we just kind of got through this. And the Genoa took us 18 games. So Podvoski won. I mean, comparing the Genoa, just under 17k, so we're gonna get through it just a little bit faster. Podvoski just absolutely wrecked everything. Pretty damn good XP, good win rate as well for tier 5, which is, in my opinion, the most hostile tier in the game because of its poor matchmaking. But we were just able to, I mean, destruction ratio 4.4, even comparing that to like the Genoa 2.2 and the Bretagne 2.22, the Podvoski doubling that. And I mean, as you see, we were getting Krakens, got a lot of Krakens. A lot of at the time, the 4-point Krakens for the Ovechkin mission, a lot of 4-kill games. Average ships destroyed 2.4 when it came to this ship over 9 games. Pretty crazy. But yeah, this ship was so much fun to play and really made up a lot of time comparing it to the French battleship line, which we just got done with, 6 games quicker to get through the ship. So tons and tons of... I was just super surprised. Going into this, I saw playing against it in ranked sprint both seasons on 2 accounts. That this thing was, okay, you don't want that ship, you're basically at a disadvantage. In random battles, which is a whole nother beast, the Podvoski, if played correctly, is a monster to deal with. If anything, it's just the Khabarovsk of tier 5, and you just play it literally the same way. So again, not the easiest ship to play, but once you figure it out, it's so much fun. And then if you need to, 4-kilometer torps, Russian DD style, if you needed to, you could do that damage as well, and absolutely wreck face. So overall, the low tier Russian DD line, it's fun to play. Russian line, it's known as being kind of a gunboat heavy line, and it's known for being kind of in your face and just fast action. Like comparing to, let's say, like the IGN line, I find that playstyle very boring. You're waiting for your torps to come up and kind of hoping nothing really kind of gets in your face because you can't really defend yourself. with the Russian line, you're looking for fights and getting into positions where you can do damage with your guns, and I really enjoyed that. A lot of these we would play games where we wouldn't even hit a torpedo, but that's not really what we're meant to do. We're not really a torpedo line, having 4-kilometer torps. But for low tier Russian lines, if you guys haven't started it, again, this is a bit more of an advanced line. We'll talk about that as soon as we get into the mid tiers as well. As you see, we are making some insane progress on this line in general. As we are already to the Udaloy, but the Podvoski, the Izzy at tier 4, the Derpsky at tier 5, and the Stroganoff at tier 2, definitely all worth playing. Again, I would definitely stick with maybe something if you're new to destroyers. Definitely wouldn't check out this line first. It's going to be a bit harder to play for new players, but still, if you are a seasoned player, have a couple other destroyer lines under your belt, definitely worth picking this up. It's a very unique play style and something you really don't get with any other tech tree lines. But overall, enjoying it. And if you guys have played it, let me know in the comments below what you guys think of the low tier Russian line, and what did you think of the Podvoski? I posted a video a couple days ago, I think it was last week, about the Podvoski and talking about it, and everyone seems to be loving the ship as well. So kind of surprising, again, out of this ship. But anyways, guys, it's going to be Chapter 3, Episode 1 of Road to Tier 10 series, and this one over the Russian destroyer line. But anyways, guys, that's going to be it for me. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Again, let me know in the comments what you guys think of low tier Russian DD lines. That's it for me. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Remember to like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.